I'd completely forgotten to do a Pinterest board for my underplanting of the beech tree where the bamboo was. So we've gone a little bit wilder with this, a little bit more gentle with the textures and stuff, mainly because it's under the beech, and most plants that are really shade tolerant are fairly sort of forest underfloor planting, but it's still going to look beautiful throughout the year. But more of the kind of floral interest will be on the main borders, and then this will be more of a subtle interest, but it will also be brilliant for the birds and the bees, because it's mainly sort of fairly woodland planting sort of thing, or not woodland, that's probably underselling it quite a lot, but just slightly wilder. So for a start, we've got these Cornus alba siberica, which are red stems, which will look fantastic in the winter. They'll just give you these big red colours, and they also give a really lovely autumn colour, as you can see in this image. And if you leave them for 2 years, then they'll show a flower, as a little white flower as well, which the bees tend to love. I have slipped a pyracantha in there. I know that you didn't love it from your daughter's garden because she had a huge one, but when they're kept under control, they look really good. So as what we're going to do, because I've taken quite woodland planting, I want to do a thing called topiarying it, which is basically where I keep it in really tight shapes. So that's my kind of vision for it. So if you have a look, this pyracantha is kept fairly tight and is hedge pruned every year, so that it just looks fairly together. And these are the spring flowers from it, and then these are the berries. The berries you can choose between red, orange and yellow, so whichever choose, but it's great as well for local birds. The next shrub that I've chosen is Lonicera nitida, which is part of the honeysuckle family, but very different from the honeysuckle family. Now, I chose this image because I wanted you to see the lovely yellow of it. However, I won't have it as wild as that. I intend to keep it quite clipped like this, so to have it in a fairly clipped shape, a sort of fairly clipped square, so that it sits next to all this quite nicely. So I want there to be quite a lot of order in the back wall, quite a lot of sort of set shapes, but equally, because of its aspect and because of the fact that it's right underneath the beech tree, we're not really going to be able to have sort of everyday plants because there won't be enough light and water from it. So that's the Lonicera. Then the hawthorn. So I've gone for a hawthorn tree, a small hawthorn tree next to the sheds at the bottom, so in the corner, because that seems to get a lot more light. That's in the position where you've currently left the rubble from the garden. So I'd like to put a little hawthorn tree in there, which will have white flowers and be great for wildlife. I've also chosen Portuguese laurel, which is this lovely leaf shape here that you can see. It's a really good sort of dense one. So we're just basically playing with leaf and texture in this bottom border. And Portuguese laurel again will do well in shade and in dry shade. Then I've gone for another tree, which is a small tree again, so only about 5 foot, but it will mean that you won't be staring at your neighbours all the time. So I've gone for a Sorbus Joseph Rock, a mountain ash, which is a really beautiful tree. It has lovely autumn colour, and it's a fairly upright tree and a fairly good tree. It's flowering now as well, and it's got these lovely white flowers in the spring. And then just one more shrub that I've chosen along that line, which is called Mahonia. Mahonia is great for the bees. I'm going to use Media Winter Sun, which is this one here, but it's got this lovely green foliage, which will tie in really well with the Portuguese laurel, and then this lovely yellow flower, which will be one of the first pollen sources. It flowers around January, February time, so you'll have bees. If the day's warm enough, you'll have bees all over that one as well. So those are your ideas for the bed under the beech tree.